The desert air in Sedona was unlike anything Liam had ever experienced. It was dry, carrying the scent of sun-baked earth and juniper, and so still it felt like the world was holding its breath. He stood on the edge of the trail, his hiking boots dusty, his breathing a little labored from the climb. Below, the red rock formations stretched out in a breathtaking panorama of crimson and ochre, carved by millennia into impossible, majestic shapes. But Liam wasn't really seeing them. His mind was 1,000 miles away, trapped in a sterile, grey cubicle in Chicago, replaying a tense meeting with his boss, the endless ping of emails, the gnawing anxiety that he was falling behind, burning out, and there was no off-ramp. He'd booked this trip to Arizona on a whim, a desperate, last-ditch effort to recalibrate, as the wellness blogs called it. So far, it felt less like recalibration and more like he'd brought the storm cloud of his anxiety with him, a personal thunderhead hovering just over his head even under the blistering Arizona sun. "You look like you're trying to solve a math problem with the universe." The voice was warm, laced with a gentle amusement that pulled him from his thoughts. He turned. A woman was sitting on a flat, smooth boulder a few feet away, her knees drawn up to her chest. She looked to be in her late 20s, maybe early 30s, with sun-streaked brown hair tied in a loose braid. Her face was kind, her skin tanned from the sun, and she wore a simple tank top and hiking shorts. But it was her eyes that held him, a calm, clear blue that seemed to see right through the frantic noise in his head. Liam managed a weak smile. "Is it that obvious?" "A little," she said, her own smile widening. "The brow furrow is a dead giveaway." "First time in Sedona?" "Is it that obvious, too?" he replied, a genuine laugh escaping him for the first time in days. "The brand new boots, the way you're staring at the view like it's a spreadsheet you need to analyze, a little." She patted the space on the rock beside her. "The view is better when you're not standing at attention for it. Come on, take a load off." Hesitantly, Liam walked over and sat down, leaving a respectful distance between them. The rock was warm from the sun, a comforting, solid presence. "I'm Chloe, by the way, Liam." They sat in silence for a few moments, but it wasn't the heavy, oppressive silence he was used to. This was peaceful. The only sounds were the whisper of a light breeze through the scrub and the distant cry of a hawk circling high above. "So, what's the problem the universe has presented you with?" Chloe asked, her tone light, not prying. Liam sighed, the whole story tumbling out almost against his will. He told her about his job as a project manager at a demanding tech firm, the relentless deadlines, the feeling of being constantly connected yet profoundly disconnected, the insomnia, the way his vacation days had piled up because he was always too busy to use them. "I thought coming out here would, I don't know, fix me," he finished, feeling foolish. "But I've been here 2 days, and I've just been stress hiking, trying to tick all the must-see spots off a list, and I think I'm more wound up than when I left." Chloe listened, never interrupting, just nodding occasionally. When he was done, she didn't offer platitudes. She didn't tell him to meditate or drink more water. She just gazed out at the vast expanse of the canyon, her expression serene. "You're trying to control it," she said simply. "Control what?" "The experience. The peace. You're treating this like another project to be managed. Hike Trail A by 9 a.m., achieve serenity by noon, have a profound spiritual awakening by cocktail hour." She turned to him, her eyes twinkling. "The desert doesn't work like that. It operates on its own time. You can't force it. You just have to let it show you what it wants to show you." Liam frowned. "But how do you do that?" "Just do nothing." Chloe didn't answer immediately. She unfolded her legs and stood up, brushing the red dust from her shorts. "Come on, I want to show you something. It's not on the official map." A flicker of his old caution sparked. A stranger, an unmarked trail. But looking at Chloe's open, honest face, the caution died away. He felt a trust he couldn't explain. He nodded and stood, following her as she led him off the main path onto a narrow, almost invisible game trail that wound along the edge of the mesa. They walked in comfortable silence for about 15 minutes. The trail dipped into a small, hidden canyon, shaded by tall pinion pines. The air grew cooler, and then he heard it, the soft, musical trickle of water. They rounded a bend, and there it was, a small, secluded creek, its water clear as glass, flowing over smooth, red stones. Her ancient sycamore tree, its bark a patchwork of white and tan, leaned over the water, its branches creating a canopy of dappled light. It was a secret, sacred place. "Wow," Liam breathed, his voice barely a whisper. "This is my spot," Chloe said softly. "I come here whenever I need to remember." "Remember what?" She just smiled and sat down on the bank, slipping off her sandals and dipping her feet into the cool water. Liam followed suit, the shock of the cold water a jolt that felt cleansing. He watched the water flow around his ankles, how it moved around the rocks without struggle, finding the path of least resistance, always moving forward. I used to be a lot like you, Chloe said, breaking the silence. Her voice was soft, blending with the sound of the creek. I was an event planner in LA. My life was color-coded, scheduled down to the minute. I had 5-year plans, 10-year plans. I thought happiness was a destination you arrived at after checking off all the right boxes. She trailed her fingers through the water. Then my mum got sick, cancer. I took a leave of absence to care for her. And let me tell you, cancer doesn't care about your 5-year plan. It doesn't respect your schedule. For the first time in my life, I had absolutely no control. I couldn't fix her. I couldn't manage the outcome. All I could do was be there, hold her hand, read to her, just be. Liam watched her, seeing a depth of pain and hard-won wisdom in her eyes that humbled him. After she passed, Chloe continued, I was lost. My perfectly constructed life felt like a hollow joke. I sold most of my stuff, bought a used camper van, and just started driving. I ended up here. I was sitting right where you are now, crying my eyes out, feeling more out of control than ever. And as I sat here, I watched this creek. I watched how the water just flows. It doesn't try to go upstream. It doesn't get angry at the rocks in its way. It just adapts, moves, finds a way. It trusts the current. She looked at him, her gaze steady and profound. That's when I realized the problem wasn't a lack of control. The problem was my insistence on having it. Life is a lot like this creek. It has its own current. You can fight it, you can wear yourself out trying to swim against it, or you can relax, float, and see where it takes you. You can learn to trust the flow. She gave a soft smile. Just go with the flow, she murmured. The phrase, so simple, so cliché, landed on Liam not as a bumper sticker platitude, but as a profound truth, distilled from grief and rediscovery. It wasn't about passivity, it was about intelligent surrender. It was about exchanging the exhausting struggle for control with a trusting participation in the journey itself. I love that, Liam said, and he meant it with every fiber of his being. In that moment, surrounded by the quiet majesty of the hidden canyon, her words felt like a key turning in a lock he hadn't even known was there. They talked for what felt like hours, but only minutes. Time seemed to warp in that sacred space. Chloe told him more about her life now, how she worked part-time at a local coffee shop and led occasional mindfulness hikes, sharing this very spot with people who seemed to need it. She spoke of the synchronicities that had guided her since she let go, the chance meetings, the unexpected opportunities, the deep, abiding peace that had replaced her old anxiety. Liam, in turn, found himself sharing things he hadn't even admitted to himself, his fear of failure, his longing for a life that felt authentic, not just successful. The words flowed out of him as easily as the water flowed over the stones. Eventually, the sun began to dip lower in the sky, painting the canyon walls in deep shades of orange and purple. They put their shoes back on and hiked out of the hidden canyon in a comfortable, reflective silence. By the time they reached the main trailhead, the parking lot was nearly empty. This is me, Chloe said, pointing to a beat-up, but cheerful-looking, vintage VW camper van painted a faded sky blue. The famous van, Liam said with a smile. She's gotten me this far, Chloe replied, patting its side affectionately. An awkwardness descended. This felt like a goodbye, and Liam wasn't ready for it. This stranger had given him more in one afternoon than years of therapy and self-help books ever had. Chloe, I don't know how to thank you, he said, his voice thick with emotion. You don't have to, she said. Just remember the creek. Remember to float. She opened the driver's side door. It was really nice to meet you, Liam. You too, Chloe. More than you know. She climbed into the van, started the engine with a sputter and a purr, and with a final, warm wave, pulled out of the parking lot and disappeared down the winding desert road. Liam stood there for a long time, watching the dust settle. The frantic, buzzing energy in his chest was gone. In its place was a quiet, spacious calm. He didn't have any answers. He still had a job to go back to, a life in Chicago. But something fundamental had shifted. The next few days of his trip were different. He didn't make a schedule. Some mornings, he would sit on the porch of his rented cabin and just watch the light change on the rocks for hours. He hiked when he felt like it, sometimes not making it to the intended destination, distracted by an interesting lizard or a particularly beautiful flower. He ate when he was hungry, slept when he was tired. He let the current of the day carry him. And for the first time in years, he felt truly, deeply present. He went back to the hidden creek once. He sat on the same bank, dipped his feet in the same cool water, and felt Chloe's absence, but also her enduring presence in the lesson of the place. He didn't see her again. The flight back to Chicago was smooth. As the plane descended through the thick layer of clouds, revealing the familiar, grey grid of the city, Liam's stomach didn't clench as it usually did. He felt a sense of calm resolve. Back in his apartment, the blinking light on his answering machine and the stack of mail felt less like accusations and more like just things. He went to work the next day. The cubicle was still grey, the emails were still endless, his boss was still demanding. But Liam was different. When a project veered off course, instead of panicking and trying to force it back onto his rigid plan, he took a breath. He remembered the creek. He assessed the new current, adapted, and found a new way forward. He started taking his full lunch breaks, actually leaving the building, even if it was just to walk around the block and feel the sun on his face. He stopped checking his work email after 7 p.m. It wasn't a dramatic rebellion, it was a quiet, consistent realignment. He started saying no to things that drained him and yes to things that sparked joy, a concept that had always seemed frivolous before but now felt essential. He reconnected with old friends, not as a networking obligation, but for the simple pleasure of their company. He signed up for a pottery class, something he'd always been curious about but had never had time for. His first few attempts were lopsided and collapsed, but he found he didn't mind. The process of working with the clay, of feeling it move and shape under his hands, was the point. It was a lesson in going with the flow. Every single week, months turned into a year. Liam didn't quit his job and move to a van, but he did change his relationship with his job and his life. He became known in his office as the unflappable one, the calm in the storm. People were drawn to his new, easygoing energy. One Saturday, he was at a farmer's market downtown, browsing through stalls of fresh produce. He was looking at a display of heirloom tomatoes when he heard a warm, familiar laugh. His heart skipped a beat. He turned. There, at the next stall, holding a bundle of sunflowers and a bag of fresh coffee beans, was Chloe. She looked the same, maybe a little more tan, her hair a little longer. She was laughing with the coffee vendor about something. As if feeling his gaze, she turned her head. Recognition dawned in her clear blue eyes, followed by that same soft, knowing smile. "Liam," she said, her voice filled with genuine delight. "Chloe, I can't believe it. The flow has a funny way of bringing things back around," she said, her eyes twinkling. They found a nearby bench overlooking the river that wound through the city. "She was just passing through," she explained, "visiting a friend before heading up to the Pacific Northwest for the summer." "And you?" she asked. "You look different, lighter." He told her. He told her about returning to Chicago, not with a grand plan, but with a new philosophy. He told her about the pottery, the reclaimed lunches, the quiet revolution in his own mind. He didn't claim to have it all figured out. There were still stressful days, moments of anxiety, but now he had a compass. When he felt himself starting to fight the current, he would remember a hidden creek in Sedona, the feel of cool water on his skin, and the voice of a stranger who had become a quiet, guiding presence in his life. "I just kept remembering what you said," he finished. "Just go with the flow. It changed everything." Chloe listened, her smile never fading. "I didn't change anything, Liam," she said gently. "I just reminded you of something you already knew. Deep down, you did all the work. You chose to let go. You chose to trust." They talked for a long time, as easily as they had in the desert, the urban river flowing past them a testament to the same timeless principle as the desert creek. When they finally said goodbye, there were no phone numbers exchanged, no promises to keep in touch. It didn't feel necessary. Their connection existed outside of such things. As he watched her walk away, the sunflowers bright against her shoulder, Liam felt an overwhelming sense of gratitude. She had been a guide, a momentary angel pointing the way. The journey, he understood now, was always his own. He walked back to his apartment, the sounds of the city a gentle hum around him. He felt anchored, not trapped. He felt a part of the flow of life, with all its twists and turns, its quiet pools and its occasional rapids. He knew he could navigate it all, not by controlling the river, but by learning to trust the current, one soft, flowing moment